This is more of a question, but if you consider the other case in which Beth decides not to burn the letter, but then Eve uses her machine to force Beth to burn the letter, then you wouldn't really consider Beth to be morally responsible.
Yes, absolutely. If it were the case that Beth had started to think, oh, maybe I should show this to Anna, right? And Eve had seen that at a very early stage and interfered, then you wouldn't think of Beth. And as a result of that, Beth went ahead and burned the letter as Eve assured that she would. You wouldn't then think that Beth was morally responsible. Yeah, you'd think it was Eve's fault.
So it just seems like it would be really hard to tell in like real life cases whether or not Beth is morally responsible.
So yeah, if this actually happened, I mean, this isn't a real life case, but if it happened and we saw Beth burning the letter, according to your intuition, we would need to know whether or not Eve interfered with Beth in order to know whether Beth was morally responsible for burning the letter. And you're not just going to be able to see that by looking at Beth, because maybe if Eve interferes, she interferes really early. She doesn't wait for Beth to like say, oh, I should show this to Anna. Hey, Anna! And then interfere at that point and then make her burn the letter. She interferes like at the point at which the little neurons in Beth's brain are chugging vaguely in the direction towards saying that. She interferes really early. So you're not going to be able to tell just by looking at Beth whether she's morally responsible for what she does. That's your intuition. It's going to depend on whether Eve actually intervened. I wonder if that's an intuition that other people share. It's going to turn out to be quite important. Yeah, you kind of get that. Yeah.
It seems to like sort of mess up when we try to apply determinism. Like here, the intuition that Beth is responsible is because like if there wasn't Eve, Beth would have done it anyway. And like she isn't responsible if at some point Eve interferes. But like if we now replace Eve with like the laws of physics, it doesn't really make sense to say like Beth would have done it even if the laws of physics weren't true, or like the laws of physics interfered at some point to make it happen. Like that doesn't even make any sense. Like Eve is an outsider interfering with like this situation. But the laws of physics are like you can't just turn them on or off, or like consider what if they interfere.
I see. So the thought is that Eve isn't analogous to the laws of physics because we can sort of imagine Eve there and we can imagine Eve not there, and there's some sense in which it makes no difference whether she's there or not. Whereas there isn't a sense in which we can say it makes no difference whether the laws of physics are there or not, because what are we considering when we're imagining that laws of physics don't apply? I think that's a good observation. That is a disanalogy between the case he's having us imagine and the case in which just Beth burns the letter in a deterministic world. Nonetheless, what do we conclude from that? I mean, why does this show? Yeah, these cases aren't supposed to be perfectly analogous. This is just supposed to be a counterexample to a principle that's being invoked to explain why you're not morally responsible in a deterministic world. What you want to do is you want to take your idea and say, that disanalogy is important. And you want to show why it's important. You want to somehow be able to say, well, because there's something going on in a deterministic universe case, right? The case where just Beth, there's no Eve, and Beth just burns the letter in a deterministic world. There's something going on there that exculpates Beth, that gets her off the hook, that doesn't in the Eve case. And so you want to turn your observation that there's a disanalogy into an argument that the disanalogy matters. So think about that.